Welcome on another episode of Creators Corner. I'm your host, James Dale, and with me is a special guest, Patrick Fenton, or PJ Fenton, as you know, his author name, Lens. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I'm glad you came to the show and bless my platform with your presence. You have a lot of works. I have 4 books here. You know, I couldn't put down this Swing 12 book. I'm a big history buff, you know, but let me introduce my audience to you. Patrick Fenton, PJ as he likes to be called, studied aerospace engineering for 5 years at Embry-Riddle.
That's right.
Aeronautical University. After graduating, he attempted to find a career in aerospace industry with no success, which led him to learn to be a truck driver and join the family business. After an attempt to earn a mechanical engineer master's degree, he became burnt out of engineering. So he shifted to pursue a hobby in religious studies as a career and began his master's degree program at Sacred Heart University, with plans to continue PhD work. While at SHU, PJ wrote parts of his first book, The City of Nis. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
The City of Nis, yes.
City of Nis. Then quickly wrote the following 2 books in the series, Reunions, Reflections, and Recollections. Reconciliations, and The Second Coming. A standalone book, Swing 12, Sisters, Dancing, The Nazis Insane, and a first draft of a Christian fiction book. Untitled yet?
The current title is Flashbacks, and that's currently in the editing phase. So the book is done. It's being edited now before I hopefully can take it to get professionally published. If it doesn't get professionally published, then I'll be self-publishing it, just like I did with my previous 4 books. But the goal is to get it professionally published.
Yeah, that's always the goal, so that people could get a good gist of what the works that you have going on. After COVID, PJ decided to reevaluate his life, where he decided to go back to school and earn his second master's degree in computer science from the University of Bridgeport. My nephew goes to the University of Bridgeport.
Where is he right now?
He is home in the Bronx, but he studies computer science.
Rephrase that question. What year is he in?
This is his first semester. He just finished his first year. Yeah.
If he's doing computer science too, I'll probably get a few of my teachers, like Professor Mahmoud.
I'll ask him.
As well as Professor, and if he's listening, I apologize right now if I say your name wrong. Professor, I'm not even going to try saying your name. I do not want to risk butchering it. So I apologize right now. So
that's one of my things too. I butcher people's names.
I don't want to say it.
I just ask people what their name is.
I loved your class in Theory of Algorithms. So if you're listening, you know who you are. His first name was Julius, but I'm not going to just call him.
Yeah, Julius, out of respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after PJ graduated, since then he's been on a hunt for jobs, attending competitive programming events, applying what he learned in the University of Bridgeport, all while maintaining a job as a truck driver in his family's business. I want to ask you, your bio states that your passion is in engineering and religion. So, what prompted you to start writing?
I would say probably I wanted to find a way. When I was working on my religious studies degree, I also wanted to find a way I could use that also in other ways where even if I couldn't get a job, or I should say if I couldn't get a PhD, because that was my first primary goal, was to continue on to PhD work. And then after getting a PhD, what the ultimate goal after that is I wanted to pursue field work, working in religious sites across the world, like working on how things are interpreted symbolically, for example. One place that my wife and I went on our honeymoon was to Greece, and we saw the Akhtiri site, one of the places believed to have been Atlantis. A place like that is someplace I would have loved to have worked at
Mm-hmm.
if I'd been able to complete my PhD, or even get my PhD, complete it, and then be able to work and study religious sites around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was still working, I wanted to also, on my master's, I should say, I wanted to find other ways and other avenues in which I could actually use my studies, use my passions, just find ways I could also use my talents and talents that I could still make something of myself out of.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked writing, and I found the inspiration for my City of Mist trilogy in a little bit of a interesting way. And so I decided I would then take that inspiration I got, as well as some of the ways I found how I could study different religions, and use that to start writing my book.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, your books in the City of Mist series are sci-fi novels, right?
Sci-fi fantasy, yes.
Right. How did you happen to come up with the Swing 12 sisters dancing the Nazis insane? I did a little bit of research before I started reading the Swing 12. It's about a group of Germans that was against the Nazi regime, and they was really against the Nazi regime, and they loved American music, like jazz and things of that nature, and they would go out at night and just want to be human beings. They didn't want to be a part of the regime at all. They didn't believe in what they stood for or anything like that. And I love the characters in the book and where it's going. I can't wait until I finish the book, because I am a history buff and I love learning about things that I didn't read in an encyclopedia or a book at school. So this is one of the books that I am not going to put down until I finish reading. So how did you go from one genre to the next?
Well, when I was done with my City of Mist trilogy, I didn't want to just stake everything on the trilogy alone to be what could ensure that I get remembered. I mean, these books were not taking off like they were the next Harry Potter franchise. Right. So I was not going to just hope that they would, or they'd be a late bloomer or something. I mean, like they always say, an artist is not appreciated in his or her own lifetime.
Right.
You're at the extreme.
In your case, is going to be something different. I'm putting it out in the ether. You're going to be represented the way you're supposed to be represented, and they're going to glorify your name in all your works while you were still here, while you can still smell the flowers.
Well, the point I was getting at is I did not want to simply just sit back and smell the flowers after I finished the trilogy. I wanted to get to work on my next project. Right. So, question is, what's the next project? Do you want to just stay in science fiction fantasy? Did I want to just stay in these books' universe? Because I had a few ideas I could have thought of. And if you finish these books, you could see that I leave the ending at the end of the Second Coming open, and just open enough.
Good cliffhanger.
Did you finish the Second Coming?
No.
No, I'm not talking Swing 12. I'm talking about the Second Coming. I leave a few notes open. It is, in my opinion, a solid ending, but I do leave a few open places just where if I had wanted to continue writing in that particular universe, keep it and add more to the story, I would have had that open to do so.
Okay.
But
too late.
I know, and it's not too late. I could always just go back and do that too. But I wanted to just continue on and think to myself, okay, what's next? What is the next project? So what else can I write into? I could either stay a science fiction fantasy author, or I could branch out and I could do multiple genres. And I decided to go the multiple genres. We're going into a whole new genre because I did not want to also be pigeonholed into one particular genre.
Right.
So I figure, hey, the more genres I write in, the more people I can get to in my writings. And the more people I can get to in my writings, more chances I can possibly get to write something that could potentially be a success. Better chance I can also find my own personal niche. Find out like what could I potentially write that is the best.
Right.
Like if I just write science fiction fantasy, I could maybe be good, but for all I know, you said how Swing 12, you can't put it down.
Yeah, I can't put it down. I had to go to church. That's the only reason why I put it down.
Historical, I might be able to write better. I'm working on Christian fiction now.
Yeah.
You might get to that book, and that might even be better yet. So,
maybe.
So
I wouldn't be surprised based on how you approached this story, because it's a story that was loosely based off a story in the grim fantasy fairy tale, the 12 Dancing Princesses, and it. I believe that your twist on it, your spin on it, is a lot.
Well, that was one of the inspirations. I did want to write a fairy tale based story.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make a story that was one of the moderately popular one. I didn't want to do something that would have been like at the popularity level of, say, Snow White or Cinderella, because there are legions of adaptations. So many adaptations of those stories that if I had chosen one of those stories and I started writing, anyone, at this point, those stories are so well known, anyone, as soon as they start seeing the common themes that are in those stories, they're going to already know what it is.
Yeah.
So I wanted to choose a story initially that is popular enough that anyone who knows the fairy tale world will probably have heard of it at one point or another, even if they don't know the story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not so popular that it's reached that greatly known where even if you don't know the original story, you know enough of it to know how it's going to happen or what's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Which gives me, in my opinion, enough way of playing with it. Because I knew if I wanted to write a fairy tale adaptation, I could have just taken the original story and like blown up the world, or I could potentially have tried like ditching the whole story and like rewriting the whole thing that's extremely loosely based.
Mm-hmm.
Or also one of the other ways I could have done it, which I did for this one, is recasting it or retelling it, but in an entirely different environment.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that's why I got the historical aspect, putting it in this particular environment, because being more common history, it gives me an easier way also to research it. Why I chose this particular point in time also, and this wasn't the only time I considered when I was thinking about how I could write the story.
Mm-hmm.
When I did some more digging into the historical aspect, I literally found every historical note that I needed to make the story work. Mm-hmm. And it just fit perfectly for what I was trying to write.
It was supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's how it reads. You know, it reads like it happened. It doesn't read like a fantasy.
Yeah.
It reads
and that's
like it was somebody's neighbor that was telling the story of somebody that they knew back in.
And that's that's what I was aiming for. Yeah. Something of, and I have total respect for this guy, I hate when I can't remember names.
We'll come back to the name.
No. I know his work. It's his work. If I mention his works, everyone's going to know.
Who mentioned his works?
Da Vinci Code.
Mm-hmm.
For example. I'm forgetting the author's name. But how you read the story, and it almost reads like how people, after reading the book, think, this actually could have happened. But the idea being, even if it is a fictional story, it could read well enough that something like this actually had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and that's how what I was trying to get to. And sorry, this is gonna bug me now that I can't remember his name.
You did though. You did capture that what you were going after, because it actually reads like that, like it was somebody's story. So these books, I have 4 of your books, and these books, did you independently publish these books, or did you go to a publishing house to publish?
I tried I tried to get an agent originally. Mm-hmm. That's so because you can't really get into any publishing house without an agent.
Correct.
I mean, unless you're like someone, like some celebrity that they'll know that if they publish your book, they're going to get a return on it.
Right.
So I tried getting an agent first, but no agent was going to pick me up.
Okay.
Or no one did pick me up, I should say. So when I couldn't get an agent, I decided I would just go self-publishing route for all 4 books. So I'm planning on trying to go for the agent again. I mean, unless I can't find a publishing house that will take unsolicited and submissions.
Okay. And so, as a published author, if you had the opportunity to get into the aerospace industry, would you pursue it?
At this point, it would be, I think, extremely tough for me to get into the aerospace as an aerospace engineer because it's close now to 20. It's been actually 21 years now since I've graduated from Embry-Riddle.
Mm-hmm.
That said, a lot of what I've learned, the math, it's practically gone at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost need to be I think I'd almost would need to be re-taught almost from square one. Not that like I don't still have my old school books and notes. I'm passionate about saying keep all books, keep all notes, because you never know when they could end up showing up.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't want to. I mean, I got my computer science master's degree, so if I got into the aerospace engineering, or the aerospace field, I should say, but working in computers, I gladly would take that in a heartbeat.
Okay.
But as an aerospace engineer at this point, it would be extremely tough for me to get into that field now. I would have an extremely steep learning curve I'd be trying to rebuild myself up against. Like I said, I can probably look at my old notes and whatnot, and I can still probably understand them and whatnot, but if I had to, like, literally jump back into an entry-level position and start working to try and get an aerospace engineering job I would really be fighting. And when I walked into at Embry-Riddle, I honestly felt 2 years behind everybody else in terms of mathematics just to begin with, so it would probably even be worse. But that said, like I said, I got now a master's degree in computer science, and I'm trying to hold up so I don't lose any of that. So if anyone like from the Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin, Pratt & Whitney's guys, if any of them want to give me a computer science job.
Yeah, put him out there. The Lockheed, hire this man.
Or Pratt, any of the Pratt & Whitney guys. I mean, hey, I applied to that. I applied to them. And so far it's just been rejections.
He's willing and able, so each rejection is just like sales. I did sales in college, and they have the law, they have the policy or the mindset that you're supposed to have is you go with the law of averages, so out of every 10 no's is going to be 3 yeses. So you don't focus on the 10 no's, you focus on getting the yeses, and you are not selling the product, you are selling yourself, right? So when you approach things in that nature, that you not focusing on the failure, you focusing on the wins, and then you learn from what you didn't do when you got the no. And that is a good mindset to have, that every no could lead to a yes. You have a wide range of disciplines that you went back to school to earn degrees in. Were all the areas of your interest, did you always want to pursue each area? That's why you went to school, or did it just happen that you said, okay, I'm interested in this, I want to learn further?
Definitely wanted to go into aerospace engineering. My ultimate goal, and I would say this still is my ultimate goal, is to get into space. Mm-hmm. Even at this point in my life, if it's just one time, I still would want to get myself onto a rocket and get into orbit. Okay. That is so. Even now, that's still it. That's one of the reasons why I write for myself. That even if I don't make it in my life, if I write something that can live after me, it becomes popular enough, maybe one of my books will go up into space as a proxy for me. So
there you go. That's good. That's good to know that you have something. That's part of the reason why I started to write. Because each of us as creatives, we have a voice. Whether it be literature or sculptures or paintings, we want to leave a legacy behind, and each piece that you create, is a part of you, and ideally you want that to be appreciated, how it took you the time to be disciplined enough to block out the outside world and to focus all of your efforts in writing or painting or sculpting and honing your craft. So, give my audience a brief outline of how you came about writing this trilogy and what this trilogy is all about. You have the City of Nice, you have Reunion, Reflections, and Reconciliations, and you have the second coming.
Do you want the story of how I got the inspiration to write them, or do you want basically what the story is about?
Both, all of the above.
All right. Now, this is a little bit of an interesting story about how I got the inspiration. Well, the inspiration for the City of Nice trilogy comes from two places.
Mm-hmm.
The initial story, the trilogy itself is based on Dante's Divine Comedy.
Okay.
Each book, or parts of the book, is meant to take aspects of each of Dante's three books, the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and the Paradiso, and it's meant to be like warped and, I should say, inverted. The City of Nice is meant to be my inverted Paradiso book with a little bit of the Inferno. Reunions, Reflections, and Reconciliations takes a little bit of what would be both the Inferno and the Purgatorio. And the Second Coming finishes up with, again, going back to last parts of both Inferno and Purgatorio to finish it up.
Okay.
Now, I first saw a copy of the Inferno of the whole trilogy in Barnes and Noble, seeing like one of their big collector editions where you probably, if anyone's been in Barnes and Noble, they probably would see like those big hardbound books.
I have one
that has like masterpiece editions, for lack of better terms. So I've was able to like open one of them up, look through it. So I'm seeing like these images these ink images of like pictures like of hell, of purgatory, of heaven. And it's already now giving me a few creative juices ideas. But also one of the ideas for the trilogy itself came from when I was up in Milford, Massachusetts at TJ Collectibles for a Pokemon trading card game competition. It was between rounds, and I was upstairs in the main store. TJ Collectibles is a big comic book collectibles store in Milford, Massachusetts. Shout out to them if they're listening to me. And if you're still in business, I hope you still are. And downstairs they do all type of trading card game competitions. And upstairs I was finding like an old collection from 1970 of Captain Marvel, The Power of Shazam.
Right.
So I was looking at the origin story of how Billy Batson became Captain Marvel and seeing the statues of the 7 deadly sins. And I'm thinking to myself, what if they're listed as like the 7 enemies of man. I forget how it was written in the comic. And I'm almost thinking to myself, what could it be like if those images were like overlaid on a person? And then combining that with the images you would see like of hell or whatnot from Dante's Divine Comedy. Which further goes like, what if you could see those images, if someone could see that type of imagery, but overlaid in the ordinary world? Or see like the imagery of heaven overlaid onto hell, or vice versa. And that's what starts giving me a little bit of an idea as to how I would want to possibly come up with some of the basic ideas in the book. Which then gets to the beginning of the first kernels of how I'm going to come up with a story for my trilogy. Now, the trilogy originally, when I first envisioned it, it was not meant to be a trilogy of books. It was meant to be one continuous story. So initially, all 3 of these books, if I was going originally, would have been one solid book. Okay. If you look at the beginnings of the second and third, I have like review chapters, a little bit of the previous 2.
So what made you split them up in 3?
I had to split them up because if I tried releasing it as one copy, well, you can see just from how I put the 3 of them together, that would have been too long for a first book.
Massive. Okay.
Especially for that would have then been my first book to have all 3 of those all together as one book. Okay. And there are word count limits. Regardless, I mean, if you get to be popular to a popular level of like Stephen King, Michael Crichton or whatnot, to shout out to a few highly popular authors, then you can forget word count. You You are at that level where you can write whatever you want, however long you want.
A lot of those authors, they had short stories and stuff too, just to get.
Oh yeah. I know that they do have short stories, but the point is that when you get to that popularity level,
you can do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. You can write as long as you want, as short, whether it be as short or as long as you want, and no one is going to say, and your average reader will not care one bit. I've been reading lately Stephen King's book, Fairy Tale, and that's a huge book, so right then and there. But anyway, so I get to the first book, and I'm thinking so I begin City of Nis, and I'm picturing a dark world with no light. Mm-hmm. Also going back a little bit to my biblical background and thinking of this one, anyone will probably have heard at one time or another during Christmas, the passage that the people who have been in darkness have seen a great light. From, if I remember correctly, I believe that's Prophet Isaiah. Mm-hmm. So I a little bit then twisted that a little bit to what would happen if after a people living in darkness sees a great light and that light starts to burn them to death. Mm. And that literally, in a sense, is how the city of Nis opens up. Okay. With the people that are living in darkness that are suddenly exposed to light, and the light burns them.
Inferno.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention there are beings that come out of the light and begin slaughtering the native people. Mm. And this is only just the beginning of the first few chapters. Then after that, we go into a bit of a very, very, very long time skip to where there's now a new civilization that will soon then encounter the survivors of that first civilization on the planet that had to retreat deep and deep underground. Mm-hmm. And it's that confrontation that begins the story in the city of Nis. And will continue through reunions, reflections, and reconciliations, and the second coming, revealing also a plot that had been started all the way back to at that very first confrontation when light was first exposed to a dark world that literally is meant to wipe out every soul on the planet.
That could be interpreted as the plight of man. Because you being somebody who went to seminary school.
It wasn't seminary school.
You went to...
it was an actual university.
Actual university.
Sacred Heart University. I'm talking... That's in Fairfield, Connecticut. That's an actual university.
You went to school to study religion.
Religious studies. Masters of Arts in Religious Studies.
Right. So the plight of man, before you get saved, before you go into the light, before you set yourself away apart from the secular world, you are in darkness, and the only way to light is through Jesus Christ.
I don't get any of that at all in the city of Nis. I don't go like that.
What I'm saying is it is the plight of man, not has anything to do with the city of Nis. The plight of man is you are in darkness. You don't know what mistakes you are doing. The way you are living is not the correct way until you see a better way of living and of being. And sometimes it's hard for you to accept that way, so you kind of reject it.
You want to take a look at these? These actually have sayings. These are bookmarkers that I sell at conventions that actually have sayings from all four of my books. I keep them in this order. The gentleman who's behind also had asked to keep a couple of these. So you can
here are the third great attempt begins. Let our ancestors be avenged as we return to our ancestral home on the surface. Statement of the wall of Key Blast Point from the second coming. Mm-hmm. I spent so long looking at the light, making it my goal. For so long it left me blinded to what I was doing to myself, to those around me, and to what I was not doing. From reunions, reflections, and reconciliations. Reconciliation means resolution. It also means reunion, understanding, and settlement. All within. You have to reflect within before you can make changes on the outside of you. As the odd glow continued to radiate its illumination, it burned the people of the tribe. is that just figuratively or literally? It literally burned them. Literally burned them.
Yeah, that's from the beginning of the story.
Unfortunately, circumstances don't allow us to make the choices we want from Swing 12. No matter what happens, never stop protecting your family. That was in like chapter 2, I think.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah, I remember that. No one deserves to die. Yeah, that's relative. Some people do. It is simply mind over matter. As long as I don't mind, it doesn't matter. But besides, complaining only makes it worse. From reunions, reflections, and reconciliations. All you ever see is what you want to instead of what is real. From the second coming. That is profound. So tell me, how do you understand what you are reading? What is right and wrong? Gotta pray on it. Gotta pray on it. From the city of Nis. Knowing and understanding are two different things. Reading is comprehension.
That's been my most popular one that I've ever been said.
People that allow terrorism and hate sponsored by its own government to happen on its own soil doesn't have the right to talk about being great and proud. That is true. Swing 12. All right, PJ, you have accomplished a lot. You know, you have a lot of accolades. You know, with your master's degrees and your other degrees, and you are a published author. You know, you drive trucks. You've got a lot of interests. And before I ask you where can people find your works, I am not only a history buff, but you know, I dabble into religious studies as well. I just haven't been disciplined enough to go to university to get further my education in that regard. Is that something that you always wanted to do, or you just living life wanted to learn about religion?
I always had a hobby of like studying world religions, mythologies. And that started back like when, just before I got into high school, during my free periods when I was in high school at Fairfield Prep, I used to like read about mythologies, different things about mythologies, world religions. The more interesting the world religion, the better. When I was doing my master's degree, I originally wanted to try and I did my master's degree on focusing on Greek mythology, but I originally wanted to also see if I could focus Zoroastrianism into it as well. I couldn't, if anybody here probably will have heard of that one. Basically would be considered an endangered species in terms of religion, but it used to be easily a world religion before the rise of Islam. It still exists today, I should also include. But I've always had an interest. Even when I was in Embry-Riddle, I used to be checking out things like New Age books to see about like what stuff is around today that could almost be considered new religions. So when the engineering wasn't working out, and I figured I wanted to try something different. I figured, okay, this is something I actually always had a real big interest in. It was always a hobby of mine. So I figured I wanted to try and see if I could turn that, though, into a career that I could enjoy and really sink my teeth into and go and take as far as I could take it.
I can't wait until that book comes out. And the ones that you have published now that are available, where can my audience and pick up your books?
They are available through all the normal internet distributors. You can find them on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com. Next month on July 20th, I will also be in Hartford, Connecticut at Connecticon doing a one-day sale on the level 6 ballroom floor of the Connecticut Convention Center for Connecticon. Okay. So I will be there selling books as well.
Okay, and before we leave out, I'll leave the floor for you. Any profound quotes or anything you want to leave with my audience? Shoot.
I can't really think of too much. I mean, what's there profound actually I can say? I mean, I don't think there is anything profound anyone can say. It's for people afterwards to determine what is profound and what is not. I doubt anyone ever really considered something that they said profound until after it happened. That's like asking the people. That's like going back to when when stuff like the letters that are in the Bible now were first written, and asking the writers, asking St. Paul, St. Peter, St. Jude, hey, do you think anyone's going to remember this in 2,000 years from now? Do you think people are going to consider this profound? Think any of them really thought that stuff was going to be remembered in 2,000 years? There are people who are going to argue all around that are going to say if they probably did know, they've been a little bit more careful about what they were writing.
And on that note, my name is James Dale, and this is Patrick Fenton, PJ Fenton. See you on the next episode of Creators Corner. Have a good one.